Hi, and welcome to A Sense of Wellness podcast, inspiring and empowering a healthier you. I'm your host, Susan Greeley, and I'll be diving deeper into the 4 pillars of wellness: sleep, exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Welcome to this month's episode, where I'm talking about not only the 4 wellness pillars and lifestyle, but also how we as individuals can measure them. So in terms of health span and longevity, much research now shows that building and maintaining lean body mass as we age is really our fountain of youth. Yet, as a society, people fixate on that weight on a scale, that number, and that is just simply not a good measure of health. Today, I'm joined by Bradley Davie, who is a passionate wellness and fitness professional and expert at InBody, where he's been working with companies and individuals for the past 8 years to educate them and implement InBody's ecosystem of health assessment tools, which includes body composition analyzers, blood pressure monitors, and grip strength dynamometers. Bradley is the host of Beyond the Scale podcast as part of his work. I do want to mention that InBody's mission is to provide biomedical technology that simplifies the understanding of your health and wellness. This is really about the individual's health and wellness and how we measure and track that over time. So Bradley, I'm really excited to have you with me today. Thank you for being here.
This is fantastic. Thank you for having me. I admire the work that you're doing and grateful for the opportunity to hang out with you.
Awesome. I appreciate you being here. And this is a fun area to talk about as far as health and wellness. We're not just talking lifestyle itself. We're looking at getting into the data on an individual and personal level, which is very, very revealing. It tells us a story about our own health. So that's what you do on a daily basis. You have just this wealth of knowledge about these tools that are accessible to us. Let's start with a little bit about your background, though, Bradley, and how you got to this place of working at InBody and helping individuals and companies implement ways to assess metabolic health specifically.
Growing up, it was always in my field of awareness that I wanted to be somewhere in teaching and also in athletics and sports, and went on to college and I pursued a degree in kinesiology and exercise science, went on to be a teacher for a little bit. And then I moved to California from Maine after I had graduated college, and I started working as a personal trainer. And along the way, I came across InBody as a product that was used in one of the gyms that I worked at. And one day I thought I just wanted to make a bigger impact in the world and improve my sales skills and marketing ability. And I took a job here at InBody that was back in 2016. So almost for the last 8 years now, I've been helping different corporations, individuals, fitness businesses, medical clinics, researchers implement this technology to gain some insights from it. And as it relates to the data, a lot of this makes me think about how behavior change is the basis of a lot of why people want to see this information, whether somebody is sick and they want to get better, or they're an elite performer and they want to stay their best, or they're just somebody on a health journey that wants to build lean mass and reduce body fat. And there's a lot of things that we can do to provide support and help them along the way with that.
Right. And I'm all about that behavior change. And we need the starting point. This data is invaluable now. We have more and more, which gets me all excited about working with people when you have very specific data for them. Okay, so let's give listeners just a quick overview of the InBody scales on a professional level, and then we'll also talk about consumer scales. But can you please explain bioelectrical impedance, how that is a non-invasive way to gather data on your own personal metabolic health and body composition? And then we'll go from there.
So InBody has an ecosystem, as you mentioned, of health assessment tools. One of them that we're most well known for are the body composition analyzers. And foundation of that technology is a bioelectric impedance, which essentially means you would take your shoes and socks off and you would wipe off your hands and your feet, and then you step up onto the scale and you hold on to the handlebars. And for 30 to 60 seconds, depending on which model it is, the machine is sending small, safe currents through your body's water using the minerals and electrolytes to conduct that electricity. So at the root of it, we're measuring your resistance to these small, safe electrical currents. And we do it at InBody in a unique way with a method that uses 8 electrodes. So you're 2 for each foot, 2 for each hand. And we use multiple frequencies. So lower level frequencies travel in the extracellular fluid within the body, like your blood and your skin and your lymphatic system. And as the currents increase in their intensity, they'll actually penetrate the cellular membranes and they'll capture the intracellular fluid in your muscle and your bone. And from there, we're able to take that data and then report how much muscle you have, how much body fat you have, how much water you have in and outside the cells, and then even break that up into different segments of the body. So we could see muscle fat and water values by arm or leg or trunk. And then from there, we can even get more granular, just looking at overall cell health and cellular integrity if we wanted to get further into it. So it's a great method of quickly, easily capturing where we're at, like you said, for a starting point. And then along the way, we're able to track that progress and identify health risk that comes along with those outputs that we're measuring, and then perhaps try to make some change to improve them.
No, it truly gives those actionable insights. You can come in and be at a completely normal body weight and then come to discover that you're seriously lacking in strength and lean body mass. There is this concept of skinny fat, and that's a real problem, honestly. I actually see it pretty frequently. So I find it just invaluable for individuals. So let's say you go to your doctor and they offer this. That's one way to get on an InBody and get a personalized report. Where else do you see that consumers do this? Would you recommend they have a scale at home? And I do want to differentiate between the professional series and the home scale, but how much more does the professional series get you when you say go to a doctor or a gym or wherever they have that versus having your scale at home?
We actually have a map on our website if you wanted to go and look up where somebody has a professional unit. And by professional unit, we mean this is typically in a doctor's office or a gym, and the scales range from $10,000 to $30,000. And these places will offer the assessment. So you could find one map on our website where you might be able to go and get one. And we also have them for consumers. So you could get one and have one in your home and be able to assess yourself there too. So I feel like a lot of people sometimes do both, but having one in your home is a great way to be able to get these measurements and track your progress too. It connects to our InBody app, and we've got a lot of different educational content in there to continue to support someone along their journey too. And we even have companies that have integrated our home units into nutrition and health coaching programs where you could sign up to work with somebody remotely as well.
That's exactly what we do. And I encourage listeners to seek that out. Know where you are as far as your body composition goes. Okay, so let's say you do that, you get a report. Bradley, can we dive into that actual printout and tell listeners what to look at on the InBody report? I have one. As you said, you can get quite granular, but let's go over even just the high level of what to look at on the InBody composition analysis.
So right off, we're going to see a lot of different numbers in terms of just how many pounds we have of different components of our body composition, regardless of whether that's good or bad. We could see how much of your weight is fat-free mass or how much of it is fat mass. We can break that down and see how much of it is water. We can even see on some of them how much of it is protein or minerals as well. We then start to see context of how your body composition would compare to an average or a healthy population, meaning your weight and your muscle and your body fat. Do these things line up to, we actually show it in 3 different shapes. So when we look at the result sheet in the muscle fat analysis, you could be a C shape, an I shape, or a D shape. If your muscle is further along on that graph than your weight and your body fat, that's an ideal shape, and we call that a D shape. If all of those bars were to line up, we'd call an I shape. We don't have enough muscle to be past that weight and body fat, but if the muscle is below that, then it's an indication that we probably need to build more lean mass, and we're a C shape on there. So that's a quick way we can kind of take a glance and see our proportionality related to that. Then we break it down even further. You mentioned skinny fat on there. And I think that comes from when people think about their BMI as an accurate indicator of their health, and it's within a healthy range. But then when we measure their body fat percentage, it's actually at a higher health risk. So we have a graph on here that shows the BMI next to the percentage of body fat. And typically we want to see that body fat within a healthy range. For a female, it's usually 18 to 28%. For a male, it's 10 to 20%. We're able to see those two alongside of one another. And then we can even break it down, the body fat, into segments. So we can see how much body fat is in each arm or leg or trunk. And then we take it one step further to a really important metric. I think if a lot of providers could just take one output from our result sheet, they would probably want the visceral fat score, which is the fat that's internally in and around your organs, sticking to your heart, sticking to your lungs, and in effect, kind of choking out your organs and your metabolic efficiency in the process. So being able to monitor that is super important to a lot of people's health journey. And then we can even take it, and in addition to seeing the body fat by segment, we can even see the lean mass by segment. So we can see, do you have enough bone, muscle, and water in each arm and leg and trunk to support your body weight? And then we can even look at, related to the water, we see total water, intracellular and extracellular water. And when we divide extracellular water, the water that's in your blood and your skin and your lymphatic system, by the amount of total water you have, a lot of people would say that that's a good indication of edema or inflammation. Though over time, we can get a value for that for the whole body, as well as each one of these segments too. And we can track that progress over time.
Was there an ideal range for that extracellular water to total body water? I'm looking at my report now on this. I see the analysis and I see a 0.379. Where do I stand?
So typically a normal range is 36 to 39%. And I've been testing people for quite a few years now. And I've been inside professional athletic locker rooms and Olympic locker rooms. And typically an athlete that has a lot of muscle, a really efficient metabolism, and they're going to be closer to 36%. And on the other end of the scale, 39% or even higher means we're retaining a lot of water outside our cells, or some people might call that edema. So think about like a diabetic or somebody with lymphedema. They would be closer to that 39 on the higher end of it. So you're right in the middle of it, not a bad score. But water, it makes up 73.3% of our lean mass. So if we got rid of all of your body fat, 73% of what was left would be water. And water moves in and out of our cells a lot. That's how our metabolism works. So this water score can also be an indication of our efficiency of that water moving in and out of the cells. And whether we have enough muscle can also be a good indicator of, are we getting enough of that water inside of our cells, or are we holding on to it outside of our cells? But because water is so abundant, that score can also change very rapidly. So when I first started using InBody, I was a personal trainer, and I would use that score as kind of a lie detector to determine how well my client was following their nutrition plan, or how well they were recovering from activity. Because, for instance, you're at a 37.9% now, but if you go out and you eat a really salty steak and you have some alcohol, you're going to pull more water out of your cells, and that score is going to increase. On the other end of it, if you become more active, healthier, that score can go down. So it's actually a more sensitive marker of somebody's overall health.
I love this. This is fun to look at and do this own personal assessment based off of these numbers. I think most people, again, would just look at this, see their weight, and then hone in on that body fat and body fat percent. So this is very eye-opening to see what other markers we have here, especially on hydration and the water inside the cells. I just want to reiterate that versus extracellular and edema. So this is really helpful to understand how to get the full picture and then again, take action on what you're seeing. But I love that it, as you said, calls out the client if you're in, say, coaching or following up with a nutritionist or your trainer or anybody. How do you then take where you are and track that over time? Is there a recommendation for how frequently you should get on this? So there's a lot of fluctuation, as you said, in our fluid status and probably less so in, say, muscle mass and body fat. But how frequently do you recommend somebody get on one of the professional models?
I would say that the effort that you're putting in should equal how frequently you're testing. So if you're trying to make change and you're taking action, activity, changing your diet, then we would expect to see more change. A good recommendation would be monthly if possible, but at least annually at the least, to see over time, how is my body composition changing? But the tool is a great measure of motivation and accountability as well, where some people might do it weekly. Some people might want to just check their weight daily, or there's no harm in it. We can test as frequently as we want to, but I think it should correlate with the amount of effort you're putting in, or perhaps the amount of accountability or motivation that you need.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Since there's no harm in doing it more frequently, again, since it is non-invasive and maybe you're not quite at that D, but you need to get there. I love that. And for listeners, you can look at your report and see your weight, skeletal muscle mass, and body fat, which is what we're talking about to start the C, I, and D. That alone is like a very simple eyeball it and check where you fall and then take steps towards changing that in whichever way you do need to go. I mean, some people honestly maybe are too low body fat and don't realize it. Very infrequently does that happen, at least in my world. But I love that at the top, it also tells you that whether you need to even gain body fat mass or lean body mass. I'm looking at my own, and very interestingly enough, my right arm is stronger than my left. Is that a bad thing when you have these imbalances?
A couple of things you said. Number one was we have the body fat-free mass control value, which will actually show the change in your body composition to get back to that healthy range. So it could say reduce body fat, it could say increase lean mass, and that'll give you a good idea of where you're at. For most people, when they look at that, the change that the results are showing, it's pretty close to where they think they want to be or where they should be. When we look at the segmental outputs, those are showing us how much lean mass we have, and that's related to your bone, muscle, and water in that segment. And this is more of like a quantitative value of how much lean mass you have. It's not necessarily a direct reflection of how much strength you have. And that's why we actually just came up with the grip strength dynamometer, where when somebody finishes the in-body test, they can also test the quality of the muscle in that region. Because if there are imbalances on the result sheet here in this quantitative value, it's telling us the difference between how much lean mass is there. And sometimes that can be due to previous injuries, could be due to a dominance, and maybe you're right-handed and you have a little bit more lean mass on your right-hand side. Maybe you've got an old injury on the left-hand side and it hasn't developed fully to meet the right-hand side. So by looking at these imbalances, it gives us a good indication perhaps of areas that we might want to prioritize, especially if we don't have enough lean mass in our legs and that's low and we want to prioritize building more lean mass in our legs. We can track that over time. Or if we did have an injury and we see some swelling that's happening there, we can track that back to recovery. A lot of different organizations in physical therapy, rehab, chiropractics, even professional athletics are looking at these values segmentally to determine the quantity of lean mass or even the change in the performance based on somebody's daily life.
Really helpful. I want to switch gears a little bit, Bradley, because you triggered the dynamometer I wanted to talk about, a measure of grip strength, because we can see where we fall on this report and who understands like what an actual amount of muscle means in my right arm versus when I go to physically do something, right? So let's talk about some of the other assessment tools and that round out the whole story.
Yeah, the grip strength dynamometer is a great tool, and grip strength overall is a great measurement of longevity and health. And some would even say like our brain health, because the strength that we have, if we're able to maintain it longer in our life, we're probably going to live longer. And it's a great measure to be able to show that progress, or even, an opportunity to find a risk that we might want to improve. So a lot of times when we measure grip strength, we do it on both hands, the right and the left hand. And we might even find some imbalances among strength in those two that would indicate somebody, spend a little bit more time building their strength on the left-hand side versus the right-hand side. So great way to measure overall health with the grip strength.
Is that a tool that consumers can use at home? I've never personally measured that, and I don't know where to do it. Or is this something I need to purchase and do at home?
Yeah, we sell them. So you could have one at your home, and ours is a really great tool. It's got the same type of load cell that we have in the scales and really high quality device. So you could have that for your home. And we also have providers that have them in their offices too, where you might be able to go and do something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I actually, despite not having done it myself, I do encourage, say, our members, our concierge members, and we're all patients at some point. But in any case, I encourage people to ask their doctor if they measure that, to check it as part of their longitudinal data that they're watching on themselves, right? And as we all age, the whole goal is to age better and improve that health span. I started by saying that, and these are very simple measures. I know that, and I love that we have this data now to back it up. But I think people aren't aware of how some seemingly simple measurements can really make a big difference on the trajectory of their health over time. So to me, that's the most compelling piece of information as we age.
Absolutely. I think one that we haven't talked about too, that you have a lot of experience in, would be the basal metabolic rate, because that's the amount of calories that my body is using in a 24-hour period of time based upon how much lean mass I have. So it's the rate of my metabolism. And we report that on the results sheet. And a lot of people think about it like a baseline number of calories that I need for my brain and my organs and my muscles to function in a day, whether it's my digestion or whatever metabolic process that I have happening. We get a baseline for that to be able to kind of see a floor of what we wouldn't want to consume less than, to that would sacrifice our metabolic function. And then from there, we can even take that value and we can figure out how much energy am I using in addition to that basal metabolic rate. And then I could do a lot of things with that, as I could even break it down into how many macronutrients I'm going to consume or micronutrients related to that, and use that to really take some good action in my health journey.
Right. Otherwise, it's a shot in the dark. And I see this all the time. Thank you for mentioning that, because somehow I almost overlooked it, even in my own report and in my world of health coaching and nutrition. This is probably the most important number to have when somebody is starting a weight loss journey. You don't want to eat below that level. And I do see it all the time, the severe calorie restriction, which over time leads to decreased metabolic rate, which nobody wants, and often a loss of the lean body tissue. So I love that it's in here. I'm noticing it on the report. Bradley, maybe this is feedback. Highlight, make it bigger. No, but that's really an important number to know. So again, when people talk metabolism all the time, oh, my metabolism is dropping as I age and there's nothing I can do. That's incorrect. We know that, but people need the support and again, need that starting point of what are you actually working on? But it's very eye-opening too, to see that number, whether it's 1,200 or 1,900, to know that your body really requires energy to function, to breathe, for your brain, for your muscles, to keep everything going. And when you don't consume that over time, and not even just over time, even in a short amount of time, it can do damage. You're not achieving the results that you necessarily want, which is, as we're talking about, and I love to talk about more and more, is building that lean body mass, talking about this fountain of youth. and how metabolically, maybe you want to speak to that too, Bradley. Why is this even so important that we're talking about building lean body mass? This is me tapping into your background as a trainer, health coach, everything. You have so much experience also working with clients.
Yeah, well, I think about individual organs function in our body. You do certain things, maybe like, say, to move our blood or our hormones, but the whole body functions and the metabolism functions as a whole system, including all of those things. And we've got to work that like a pump, right? If you don't eat, your body's going to break down and you'll have less lean mass and your metabolism will be slower. If you don't exercise, the same thing will happen. We need to work the body and the metabolism like a pump to build up our lean mass over time. And if we break it down into the function of the metabolism, it's to create energy and determine how our body's going to function and how efficiently it functions. And having all of this information and maybe the knowledge to support our growth can help us live a longer, healthier life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that said, many people are still very sedentary. You were preaching to the choir for those who are athletic and exercise regularly. It's still very valuable and important knowledge to have with all this. But let's say we're talking to somebody who doesn't exercise regularly. It doesn't come naturally for them to. Where do you start with your recommendations to build muscle on somebody who is far above the recommended body fat? So let's go there. What did we say? 18 to 28% for women. I work with a lot of women who are well above that. So what are some types of exercises that you recommend to start with?
I think doing what's easy and fun is probably a great place to start. Look around you and what's accessible to you. What can you do there? I typically like to do an intake of somebody to figure out what they like, who they are, maybe what their purpose is in life, or what really inspires or motivates them, and encourage them to take those steps. Beyond that, if we're really looking to develop a program to find and build strength, then if you have resources at home, there's a lot of different fitness tools or opportunities you could do from your home, but there's also a lot of facilities out there that will teach you how to do it in a group setting, or you could do it in an individual setting. I think it's just a matter of doing what's easy and fun a lot of times to get started. I probably wouldn't be too crazy about what type of gym I set somebody to, as long as it was probably in the beginning the closest one to them. So the barrier to them taking that action would be the shortest to be able to build that momentum. And then after that, perhaps we can refine that and grow. Because for me, at least, my journey through fitness has evolved over time, and it changes with where I'm at and what I have access to and how well I'm motivated to do those things. So that's kind of how I would take an initial look at it with somebody.
You're a true coach. I love that response. And I think that helps a lot of people to start with something fun and easy that you like. I say that again, but I wanted to hear it from you as well. So you, for me, hit the nail on the head with that one. Doesn't have to be overwhelming. And if that starting point seems really daunting, that you have, say, 20% body fat to lose. So these are helpful measurements, but I do want to say that as well, that you can't let it also trap you. You know, I've worked with so many people over so many years who are trapped to that number on the scale. So let it be a helpful starting point. But I think as far as making behavior and lifestyle change, let's keep it real and keep the fun in there when it comes to exercise. I think that's the most important. I'm also driving at something, Bradley, I want to share with listeners. You have maybe a second career going on at the same time, which is related to you DJing. And I did want to ask about that. So tell me a little bit about your DJ life.
So for me, I've always loved dancing and I've always loved music. And I think one day I'll produce my own music. But at this point, it's sharing other people's music with the world that I really resonate with, and creating a culture where people are enjoying dancing for the sake of dancing, and using that to achieve their health goals, like we're talking about, our fitness, our cardiovascular health, social interactions, and connecting with people. It was a big step for me to show up in new environments and make new friends and play music that I love and see everybody happy with that. So I've had a great opportunity to travel to some other countries and across the US and be able to do this. So I think it's a great opportunity to share music and dance and health with the world.
It sure is. That brings everybody together. So fun. That actually does inspire me. I think everything comes back to dance and how fun and easy it is for people. It just happens naturally, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Dance is something that brings so many people together. You know, a lot of times it doesn't have any words to it. And if it's just for the sake of dancing, one of my favorite types of events to DJ is an ecstatic dance, which is just built around people dancing for and with themselves for the sake of dancing. Now, people can dance with other people, but it's more about moving the energy through our bodies and perhaps healing or reducing stress through dance and movement. And that's what's always been most exciting to me, because being a DJ is not to me about being in front of a bunch of people and everybody looking at me, but more about cultivating the culture around it and enabling people to have healing experiences through the music. Because I've found that myself, that when I get deeper into that place, and it happens in our flow states of whatever work we're doing or activity we're doing, when we find that place, it really kind of shakes things a little loose and aligns them a little better. So that's really what has helped me along the way, and just being able to share that with others has been really powerful too.
Thank you, Bradley. I love you sharing that. You and I both coach a lot of people, and we can't lose sight of the human element and what is natural for all of us, and that flow of energy. I love that. And dancing. Do you have any other insights from your coaching days to share with us?
I think if I could leave your listeners with a useful piece of information to help them along their journey, it would come in an acronym for, there's 5 letters, EMAC, and the E stands for efficiency. And if we can think about how can I efficiently achieve what I would like to achieve, and we were talking earlier about possibly making it fun and easy, maybe that's the most efficient way. Or maybe seeking a mentor or coach that can help me, that would be efficient. Or listening to podcasts, and we can learn from that too. The M is for motivation, and I really love to tune into what motivates people and what continues to motivate people. So if you think of that along your journey, it's going to really drive some, I think, important progress and growth there. Accountability is the A, and knowing what we're accountable for, or as a coach, knowing what my client is accountable for, can help people stay motivated also longer. And then the C is consistency. So how do I create consistency, or how do I block out time for certain things, or consistently put things in my life that are going to continue to help reshape this journey? And then the K is for knowledge, and knowing, or maybe knowing that I don't know things, and being able to reach out and learn new things or continue to gain new knowledge to help on the journey as well.
I love that. I love that acronym. It's so helpful. I'm going to throw commitment in there too with the consistency. I had no idea that we would end up coming full circle with starting with data and measuring and tracking our data over time, and really transitioning that into the very actionable behavior change supported by coaching. And that's what brings it full circle. That was lovely. Couple last questions. Maybe it's safe to say that dance is your favorite exercise, but aside from that, do you have some other favorite exercises, Bradley?
2 things come to mind. First, pool work. Working in the water is such a great place to cool off, and any direction that I push water, I have resistance. So a lot of times I get in the water and I push the water in a lot of different directions, thinking about how many different movements I can create with my joints. It's a great place to work out in the water.
Awesome.
And then the other one would be on an exercise ball or a Swiss ball. I love to do a lot of different movements on the ball because, one, if you lay down on it, it's a great way to open up your spine, open up your chest, stretch out your arms, and we can create a lot of movements around that. You can roll on it. You can push your body into it in a lot of different directions. It's just one of the greatest resources I think that I use every day to stay mobile, to stay functional, to be able to then go and do any other type of, say, an Olympic lift to the barbell or anything with a dumbbell or a machine. Really helped me create a foundation of mobility to support that growth.
Nice. Oh, those are very helpful and inspiring. I do love talking to you. I appreciate how you practice what you preach, you tie it all together, and you share such valuable insights with all of us, at least in my conversations with you. So I'm happy to share that with listeners. I have one final question for you today, Bradley. What are you grateful for today?
Oh, I'm grateful for you for inviting me here. I think this has been a fantastic experience, and I thank you for honoring me and offering me the opportunity to share this. I'm also grateful for all the years I've been able to work with InBody. I think it's been the company as a whole and the people that I work with and the tools that we have been able to make such a fantastic impact on the world. And then I think I'm also grateful for myself and my ability to maintain my integrity and push through challenges and reflect on my own successes over time here as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. I agree. And I'm very grateful for you and having met you. So thank you for sharing all this. Finally, where can listeners find you personally and the Beyond the Scale podcast?
The Beyond the Scale podcast will be up on the InBody YouTube channel and hopefully at some point across all the channels that your podcast is also on. But it's a newer project that we're working on there. You could always go to inbodyusa.com to learn more about that and see our different products and models there, and reach out to us if you have any questions. If you wanted to email me directly, it would be bradley.davie, Davie @inbody.com. And then if you also wanted to visit bradleydavie.com, you could see more about what I've got going on there as well. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you again for being with me. Keep dancing, keep sharing all your knowledge. I love it.
Maho. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to join me and listen to this episode. You can find more information and subscribe to the Sense of Wellness podcast on our website at ccphp.net/sens. This show is brought to you by Castle Connolly Private Health Partners, a concierge medicine organization that partners with and supports exceptional physicians to deliver an unrivaled experience of comprehensive, collaborative, and attentive care for a preventative approach on health and optimal well-being for members. Be sure to listen in next time to the Sense of Wellness podcast, and remember, simple daily habits matter most.